It was unusual for him to introduce so many people. I had never seen that before. Those words, spoken by a fan who witnessed it firsthand, still echo with an eerie weight. As the lights dimmed and the crowd roared, something felt different. There was a heaviness in the air, a strange sense of finality woven into every note. But what if Elvis knew this was the end? Was it simply another concert, or a carefully veiled goodbye that only a few truly understood? By the mid-1970s, something had changed. The man who once electrified stages across America with raw energy and unstoppable charisma was still performing, relentlessly. Hundreds of shows, city after city, year after year. But behind the curtain, the toll was mounting. The spotlight that had once seemed like home now cast longer shadows. His health was quietly unraveling, strained by chronic ailments, pain, and a kind of loneliness that not even screaming crowds could silence. Yet night after night, he kept showing up, a legend cloaked in rhinestones and fatigue, carrying the weight of expectation on tired shoulders. In the summer of 1977, cameras rolled in Omaha and Rapid City, capturing what many believed to be the end of an era. The CBS special, beamed into millions of living rooms that October, became etched in public memory as the final glimpse of a musical titan. But that assumption has always been a little misleading. The truth is, those televised concerts weren't his last. Just 5 days after the Rapid City show, something else happened. Something not broadcast but burned into the memories of a lucky few who were there to witness it. On June 26, 1977, at the Market Square Arena in Indianapolis, he stepped onto the stage one final time. No cameras, no networks, just a packed arena and a performance shrouded in strange intensity. Years later, fans continue to share their memories on YouTube, recollections steeped in emotion, wonder, and something they couldn't quite explain. There was something different in the air that night, one fan wrote. He was saying goodbye and we didn't even know it. That night, something peculiar unfolded on stage, something that even the most devoted followers found unusual. As the show edged toward its finale, Elvis paused, not just for a breath, but for a moment of acknowledgement. One by one, he began introducing the people around him, his bandmates, his backup singers, even the crew behind the scenes. For longtime fans who had seen him perform dozens of times, this stood out. He had never done it quite like this before. There was a reverence in his tone, a calm gravity, as if he were placing invisible medals on each of them. Then came the parting words, simple, heartfelt, almost too carefully chosen. "We'll meet you again. May God bless you. Adios." On paper, they sound like any other farewell, but in person, they rang with an oddly prophetic weight. Something in the way he said them, lingering just a second too long, gave the impression that this wasn't just the end of a concert. It was the end of something far more personal, more final. Was it merely routine? A tender gesture for those who had stood by him through years of highs and lows? Or was it something else? An unspoken message that only made sense in hindsight? Fans left that arena with full hearts and unforgettable memories. But some would later wonder if they had also witnessed the curtain closing on more than just a stage. By the time summer arrived that year, the man who once moved like a wildfire across the stage was quietly battling a storm within. His body was burdened with more than just the weight of fame. Glaucoma clouded his vision, liver damage stole his vitality, and an enlarged colon added to a growing list of painful private struggles. High blood pressure pulsed like a ticking clock beneath the surface. Outwardly, he still wore the sequined jumpsuits and flashed the familiar smile, but inside the machinery was faltering, and only those closest to him knew how dire it had become. When the CBS special aired months later, it was supposed to be a tribute, a celebration of the music and the man who had captivated the world. But for those who knew him well, it was devastating to watch. Jerry Schilling, one of the most trusted members of his inner circle, called it out directly. He couldn't believe the footage had been allowed to air. Linda Thompson, who had shared years of intimacy with him, was haunted by what she saw on the screen. "This wasn't the man I knew," she said, the disbelief still raw in her voice. Her reaction wasn't about nostalgia, it was about grief. What they saw wasn't just physical decline, it was a fading spirit, a reflection of someone worn down by more than illness. For those who had once stood beside him in rooms filled with laughter and life, the disconnect was jarring. The vibrant soul they remembered, the one who lit up a room before even saying a word, seemed distant, replaced by someone caught in the shadow of his own legend. It wasn't just heartbreaking, it was a warning, one that only made sense after everything unfolded. As the final moments of the show approached, the room fell into a rare stillness. Then came the first few notes of Unchained Melody, a song so heavy with emotion that it seemed to still time itself. There was a sudden shift in the air, as if every breath in the arena held back in unison. Elvis sat at the piano, his fingers trembling slightly, his voice breaking through the silence not with force, but with something far deeper, something raw, vulnerable, almost primal. This wasn't just a performance. This was a man digging into the core of his soul, pulling something out that perhaps even he didn't fully understand. Tony Brown, his pianist, once said, "That song brings him pain. And when you hear it, really hear it, you understand why. It's not the kind of pain you scream or cry about. It's quieter, deeper, the kind that sits in your chest long after the final note fades." Watching him that night, it was as if the music demanded more than just vocal strength. It demanded memory, regret, longing, the kind of emotional toll that leaves a mark long after the curtain falls. And Elvis gave it everything, even when there was almost nothing left to give. There's a reason that moment still sends chills through anyone who revisits it. It wasn't just music, it was a farewell wrapped in melody. You didn't need to be a lifelong fan to feel the weight of it. You only had to be human. And in those few minutes, Elvis stopped being an icon and became something far more powerful. A man reaching out from the edge of something we couldn't quite name. Not yet, but it was coming. And when it did, everything would make sense. Looking back, it's hard not to wonder, did he somehow sense it? That night, under the bright arena lights, there was an unspoken tension that seemed to hover just beneath the surface. His movements, though slowed by time and pain, were deliberate. His voice, while not as sharp as it once was, carried an unusual weight, like every lyric meant something more. Maybe it was instinct, maybe it was intuition, but some believe that Elvis felt a final curtain was near, and this show wasn't just another tour stop. It was something else, something meant to linger. Fans who were there, and even those who watched decades later, have floated theories that refuse to fade. They point to the way he acknowledged each person on stage, how he held back nothing during his last song, and the subtle, haunting softness in his final farewell. It didn't feel like habit, it felt like intention, like he was wrapping up a chapter, his chapter, with grace and gratitude. Could that performance have been his way of saying thank you, not just to the crew, not just to the crowd, but to every soul who ever believed in him? And then there are those final words, simple, unassuming. "We'll meet you again. May God bless you. Adios." Words spoken to thousands that night, but maybe meant for millions. They've echoed ever since, taking on new meaning with every passing year. What if those weren't just stage lines? What if they were more? A whispered goodbye wrapped in applause. A farewell not just to the audience, but to the world. And what if we didn't realize it until it was far too late? In the days that followed his final performance, the schedule didn't slow down. The next stop was already planned. Portland, Maine, a place he had never performed in before. The city buzzed with excitement, anticipation swelling in the air as locals whispered, "Elvis is coming." Posters were up. Tickets were clutched like gold. For many, it was going to be their first chance to see a legend in the flesh. But that night never came. The lights in Portland would never dim for him, the stage would remain untouched, and the silence that replaced the music was deafening. On August 16, 1977, the world was shaken awake with a single unbelievable headline. Elvis Presley, gone. No warning, no goodbye, just the stark finality of loss. For fans, it felt like a bad dream. For those close to him, it was a heartbreak no words could soften. He wasn't surrounded by fans or family when it happened. There was no grand curtain call, no spotlight, just a quiet, ordinary morning that turned into one of the most extraordinary moments in music history. It was Ginger Alden, his fiancée, who made the discovery. A moment so personal and tragic it hardly seems real. Elvis, once larger than life, endlessly alive in the eyes of millions, was found alone on the bathroom floor at Graceland. That's how it ended. No stage, no song, just silence. The man who gave the world so much joy left it far from the flashing lights, far from the cheers. And yet the echoes of that final night still linger, as if part of him knew and left a message behind, one we're only now beginning to understand. If this story moved you, if it made you pause and reflect, don't let it end here. Make sure to subscribe for more untold moments, rare memories, and powerful stories that deserve to be heard. Like the video if it touched your heart, and most importantly, we want to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comments. Were you there? Do you believe he knew? What do you think really happened that night? Let's keep the conversation going, together.